So the Avs ended up losing Darcy Kemper to a mysterious upper body injury, and then ended up last night, Game 2 against the Oilers, leaning on Pavel Francouz, a 24-save shutout, giving the Avalanche the confidence here to earn a 4-0 victory, a 2-0 series lead against the Oilers. Geoff Ulrich's Oilers. Geoff, can you explain what went down last night?
It was a little bit of a beatdown went down.
Yeah.
It was a really dominant performance by Colorado. They took advantage of home ice. They took advantage of the fact they were being able to switch lines on the fly and just keep the speed up against the Oilers, who, they eventually broke down in the second half of the game. I mean, it's funny because, since that offensive outburst at the start of Game 1 by Colorado, where they ended up with a 4-goal lead, there was like a stretch of basically 2.5, 3 periods where the Oilers not only outscored Colorado, but played them really close. But then it tipped back in Colorado's scales at the end of Game 2 as well. So, the goaltending for Colorado was part of the story. Obviously, he played well, but it was really just a dominant performance. The speed of the Avalanche shutting down the Oilers forwards, in the Colorado high air, I think had something to do with it too. But, can they sustain that for 2 more games, going back to Edmonton? I think it'll be a different atmosphere. I think it'll be a different situation too with the Oilers having last shift and things like that. Okay,
Paul, do you agree with that? Do you expect this series to kind of turn on its head a little bit once they go north of the border?
I think you'll see the Oilers' best game in Game 3. They didn't do really very much in the offensive zone. McDavid, 2 shots. Draisaitl, 3. I can't remember any great scoring chances that Edmonton had during the whole game. That speaks to the defensive structure of Colorado. So we know that they can defend a little bit. We haven't seen that ability from Edmonton, and I think they need to show that in Game 3. Otherwise, this can be a very short series.
All right, so we saw a little bit of goaltending there last night, and then everyone kind of expected the goalies to be the storyline, in Game 1 between the Rangers and the Lightning. Everyone was like, you got to captain these dudes here in DFS. It didn't really work out so well in Game 1. So, Paul, are you changing up your strategy a little bit for tonight?
No, I'm looking tonight to see Vasilevsky do what he does, and that's respond to a playoff loss. Until he loses one, I'm going to keep going with him in this situation. I think he's got to be the guy that you captain in this one as well, because of that legacy that he has in these situations. So until proven otherwise, go with the Tampa goalie. That's what I say.
All right, what's the showdown strategy tonight here, Geoff?
Yeah, the only thing that worries me about Vasilevsky is I think you'll see Tampa Bay. One thing I definitely think you're going to see in Game 2 is just Tampa Bay limiting the Rangers' chances. They allowed 34 shots in Game 1. I don't think you'll see them get that many shots. It's just that's kind of an irregularity for Tampa to allow that many shots. They didn't allow many shots during the regular season. So, the Rangers have kind of had their number a little bit. They did really well against them in the regular season too. But Vasilevsky is definitely a captain's option for this game. If Tampa Bay wins, you could easily see like a 3-0, 4-1 kind of game where they just don't get many pucks by Vasilevsky. So he's an option. I also like going with, Kucherov or Stamkos. I mean, I think you kind of have to lean Tampa Bay. I think if the Rangers do eke this game out, it'll be really close, like an overtime win anyways. So going with the Tampa Bay studs at forward, who, obviously, Stamkos and Kucherov had 13 shots between them in Game 1. They're getting their chances. They're going to get chances again. And Kucherov held off the point sheet, but that won't happen. That won't last for much longer. So I think Kucherov is the other option. I think you got to go Tampa Bay in the captain spot.
Yeah, well, it's interesting there, Geoff, because I want to ask you what your favorite bet is for Game 2 on the DK Sportsbook. And I'm looking at this impressive streak that the Lightning are putting on the line tonight. So Andrei Vasilevsky and Tampa Bay have won 18 straight playoff games following a playoff loss. That's the longest streak in NHL, NBA, and Major League Baseball history. So those 3 major sports. And what do you know, Tampa Bay favored tonight, Geoff?
Yeah, and I mean, it's about the same line as we had as Game 1, -130. So the Rangers, you could still make a case here, like they're just not getting respect even on home ice, even though they've beaten Tampa Bay 4 times in a row now. There is a case to be made here that we should just be staying on the Rangers, but I just look at Tampa. I mean, the chances were there for them Game 1, and like I said, they just need to clean up the defensive side a little bit. And Vasilevsky, we know, is just a goalie who's just probably going to bounce back. He does that every single time in this situation. So there's a couple different ways that I look at this game. I do like Tampa -130. I think that's the side I'm going to lean on. It feels a little bit chalky, but I don't know. I just think it's the right play here. But OT is plus 310. I think that's an interesting prop for this game as well. If Shesterkin keeps playing on top of his game, we could get a very, very tight game again here in game 2. So I think the overtime prop at plus 310 for a draw after 60 minutes is actually a nice one that I'm looking at as well.
I mean, Paul, you've already said you're sticking with Vasilevsky over on the DFS side. What's your favorite bet, though? Is it on the Tampa Bay side?
Absolutely. It's on the puck line. I can't believe this line. Tampa minus 1.5 goals for a plus 200 payoff. Are you kidding me? That's easy. That's an easy pick for me tonight to be the best bet that I see on the board. I think the champs are going to show their mettle. I got ripped a little bit yesterday and the day before for my take on the first game. And I just think that, we saw what history shows. As a team coming off a Game 7 versus a team coming off a 4-game sweep, the team in the Game 7 situation, they win way more often than not. And rust is a big factor. Well, the rust is going to come off Tampa, and we'll see a better game from them today, a much better game.
Yeah, and to Paul's point, I really like betting Tampa to win the series. Like, I think that's a really good prop you could look at too. Like they're actually the underdogs to win the series right now. Series spread is something else you could look at. So I'm kind of with Paul on this one. I still think the Lightning are the play.
All right, guys, well, let's go ahead and look ahead to Game 3 between Colorado and Edmonton. Showdown salaries on DraftKings are not out yet, but is there someone you have cooking between the ears, Geoff, who you would target as your captain for that showdown? Maybe someone on Edmonton, since you and Paul both expect this series to be totally different come Game 3?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think you need to play an Oiler. I do think that, this game between Edmonton and Colorado will be a little bit more like Game 1, but it'll be tighter. It won't be like 9-6. It could be like 5-4 though, or 4-3 or something like that. So you can certainly look at the top 6 on both sides. I think starting with Connor McDavid, who we mentioned had a really sort of down game, is certainly a viable option. Connor McDavid is obviously always viable as a showdown captain, but there's so much talent down the lineup in this series that I'm not even sure if you need to do that. I think the way Nazem Kadri is playing and just the production that he had Game 2, I think one edge that Colorado certainly has over the Oilers is just, their depth is just a little bit better. It's just a little bit faster. So a guy like Kadri could certainly, continue that trend into Game 3. 9 shots on goal. Obviously, the chances are there. 16 shots over his last 2 games, actually. So I think Nazem Kadri is going to be a really good value captain spot. And then you can just stack all the studs in the rest of your showdown lineup. Yeah,
Paul, is there someone you like early on before salaries are released, someone that comes to mind, a captain?
Absolutely, and I'm shocked that my buddy Geoff didn't pick an Oiler. I will, in fact, and I'll show them some love, which has been a rarity for me in the playoffs. They're going to bounce back with, I think, their best game of this series. Maybe even after it's all said and done, you'll be able to say that still. My showdown captain for this game, though, will be Zach Hyman. He's had an outstanding playoff run and has emerged as the soul of this team during the postseason. He's going to get all the high leverage minutes alongside McDavid, so I'd rather save on the salary a little bit and pick the wingman. And certainly McDavid's going to be a part of my lineup as well, because these guys are going to be on the ice together all night long, including power play situations.
All right, well, let's go over to the DK Sport.
You also get to save a bit of the budget if you avoid the Edmonton big boys in this slot.
Okay, sorry to cut you off there, Paul. Let's go to your favorite bet or lean for Game 3 over on the DK Sportsbook in Edmonton tomorrow night.
Very easy. Going over the total of 7 goals. This is going to be another goal fest. They stole my line on the broadcast. Did you see that? They put goal fest right on the introduction of the hockey game. So I've got a lawsuit going against the NHL coverage in Canada.
Hey, man, listen, they're big fans of the sweat. Come on.
Let me know how that works out.
What do you got, Geoff?
I like the overs in this one too. I think specifically, I like the Edmonton team total to go over as well. Again, they are facing a backup goalie here, and as we alluded to earlier in this segment, the Oilers just didn't really they didn't really take advantage of the situation. They didn't get many high danger scoring chances. They didn't really get many great scoring chances in that game at all. So. I'm not as confident as Paul in the Oilers, which is actually really weird, but I do think the Oilers are going to get some goals in this game, and I really like going over on their team total for this Game 3. I think at the very least, if Colorado wants to win this game, they're going to have to get like 5 pucks in the net. So Going over on the Oilers team total is probably one of my favorite bets. I do just like going over on the 7 too. I think that's good. But Oilers team total over 3.5 goals. Again, you can play like alternate, team totals, whatever you want on DraftKings. But over 3.5 goals for the Oilers, that's one I'm going to take.
Hey, Geoff, real quick here. How will tonight's outcome between the Rangers and Lightning impact, I guess, the way you're going to approach Game 3?
For me, if the Rangers squeak this one out, and again, I think they're, if they do win this game, I think it could be like an OT game. Shesterkin makes like 55 saves. I will definitely be betting Tampa to win the series. Tampa is a team that I just, kind of just didn't write them off in the first 2 series, but I wasn't big on them. And it's just like, you got to learn your lesson at some point. I think that the Rangers are an interesting team. I think that 5-on-5 eventually it'll weigh back to Tampa's favor. So whatever happens in Game 2, I'm probably going to stick on the Lightning unless I just see something, or maybe there's an injury or something. But Tampa is probably going to be the play for me going into Game 3.
Paul, what about you, man?
You know what? The game tonight is way more important for the New York Rangers to hold home ice. Can you imagine if they go up 2-0? The narrative is going to be very simple. Well, Tampa hasn't really lost anything yet because they haven't lost a home game. But a loss by the Rangers will have people saying, you see, these are the defending champs, and they're defending champs for a reason. So the narrative will be easy to write either way, but it's critical tonight for the Rangers to win this game if they really have serious thoughts of winning this series.